Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. It's Scene World. This is the intro. He's him. I'm here. Hey, how's it
Hello.
going?
Good, good. So, in a
Yes,
minute,
yes. In a minute, who are we talking to? I'll let you get this one out because you were the one doing the interview, and I did
yes,
not. I
yes,
was on
yes.
adventure, so
So,
I didn't get to go.
so, so a couple of months ago, we spoke to Richard Knuckles and spoke about arcade repair and restoring.
Mhm.
And now I talk to Valerio Cannone, and we talk about the European side of arcade repair. Um, he was introduced to me by a presentation he did about arcade repair at the For Amusement Only Museum and Pinball thing. So we will link to that, I guess, because
Yes.
the presentation is in English, even
Okay.
though
Yes.
the introduction is in German. And so he's a friend of Peter Smets, aka Frankie,
Yes.
that is also known in the demo scene for being mostly the Commodore 64 or retro combo organizer and doing stuff with SceneSet. So, and yeah, he is a friend of Valerio Cannone. So we spoke about that topic of arcade repair, but from the European standpoint. Yeah, so that's
Cool.
quite interesting.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. So, news. Well, I got some.
Okay. Well,
There,
tell us.
there is an arcade. Well, not arcade. Let's say Walter Day is known for his high score preserving
Walter Day
arcade.
is known for being Walter Day. Is
Yeah,
what he's
exactly.
being known for.
Yeah. So he is one of the founders of Twin Galaxies, and he was the one that got the idea to keep all the scores. And as a side project, he also did those trading cards. And now there's a Kickstarter for a book with all the trading cards.
Okay.
Yep. So there is that.
Very cool.
Yep. And it's still going on for some days, so I hope it will be in time when you listen to this. Also, the store I Am 8-Bit released a limited edition, about 2,000 units, about Earthworm Jim. And I, for once, decided not to buy it because $134 for a reproduction unit, I'm not so sure I want that. Only seeing that just the color of the cartridge case is different, I'm not sure if I want that. If I need that, actually. So that's the first time I decided not to go for it. It's just too expensive.
Right.
And yeah. And the problem is, as we all know, at the beginning of this year, they closed all their business in UK. So it's all coming with DHL Express from the American border. That means last time I had to pay 60 euros just at customs and shipping and all that stuff.
All right.
And I'm not going to pay $200 for a video game.
Huh.
No chance I'm doing that. So I'm out of there, I have to admit. The last experience wasn't too nice. And yeah. Nope.
Nope.
I'm not going for that anymore. Yes. Oh yes, I also got some news from the demo scene
Oh.
from Barracuda, who is known to be the founder of the stock in the demo scene, and he said that the C64 portal C64.ch, so Switzerland, is looking for people to support with uploads.
Okay.
And as we all know how wonderful CSDB is and became over the past years, It's always good to support other databases. So guys, support them with uploads, I would say.
Yeah.
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 I remember you wrote an article about it for the Disc magazine, and
Yes.
nobody cared.
Yeah, nobody cared at all. Changed nothing.
Changed nothing. Right. Um. So that is that.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Nick Vivid, who we talked about, we mentioned his album. It's out. It's for sale. You can buy it. It is
yeah,
awesome.
I bought the cassette, so I'm
Yes.
still waiting for the postal service to deliver it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. So that's awesome. We'll put a link in the description so everyone can go check it out. It's getting great reviews apparently. So I think
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And well, let's
Yes.
see. There are
I've got
others.
a there's a project that I just learned about. It's called the Backbit SD cartridge. And what
Never
it
heard of
is,
that.
it
Okay.
is a it's just a cartridge that you put an SD card into and you pop it in your cartridge port and it loads whatever you've got on there. And at the moment, it handles D64, CRT, PRG, BBS, T64, and
Wow.
POO file types. I know it's P00, but I like to say POO.
Okay.
But you can find out information about that at backbit.io.
Wow.
So yeah, so that's interesting. I guess that's a alternative to the SD to IEC deals that a lot of people are using, which are cool, but they suffer from a little bit of compatibility issues, which is not unusual. So, and a cheaper alternative probably to the 1541 Ultimate Plus 2 Plus whatever.
And there's another thing. There is a new game on Kickstarter, Parallelexion.
Yes.
Parallelexion
Yeah.
is a shoot 'em bomb them up game for the Commodore 64.
Yes.
And a stunning next generation one I've read. 18 days to go as we record this, so be quick. I guess
well, then,
that would be all the news. That's pretty.
That's a pretty bitchin' quick intro right there we just did.
Well, and also we should mention that Reshoot R is out. And
oh yes.
Today in the evening.
You mean
actually,
what's it called again?
Reshooter. Okay, so enjoy the interview with Valerio.
Yes, indeed.
Oh, today I'm talking to Valerio Cannone. Hello. Welcome to the
Hi, good evening.
So, we are talking today because you are basically known for doing arcade repair, and you are actually from Italy, so you are doing the European side of arcade repair, which I would say is quite rare nowadays, at least in Germany.
That is definitely a case, although I'm not doing this professionally, because professionally I'm a hardware developer. But in the spare time, for me and for a couple of friends. So since I've been doing hardware design for more than 20 years now, hardware repair is kind of the easy thing for me. So,
really? Okay. Nice.
It's relaxing, I would say. That you get to spend a lot of time on a problem that needs to be fixed and actually found out. And you get to do this completely alone, total silence, what you typically don't have in your home because there's everybody talking and blah.
Okay. So how did that start? How did you get into electronics and finally hardware developer?
That is basically since I was born. because my father had the great idea of seeing that I was actually interested in electronics myself, and he basically gave me a Commodore 64, a floppy drive. That started everything. And I've been coding almost immediately in assembly because every source you could find back then said, yeah, basic is now go. And then I got to school, to high school with electronics. And yeah, I am half programmer and half designer.
Which is interesting because most people I know only do one thing, either programming or hardware developing. I only know a few people who do actually both.
There, well, to the defense of what your knowledge is about this, I don't program very often, so I probably, if I would post my source code, people would say, "Hey, who is this guy? He's better leave this place. We don't want him on GitHub," and stuff like that. But
Okay.
as soon as the code works, that's good.
Okay, so you started off with the Commodore 64, but
Yes.
how did you get into, as I said, arcade repair as a hobby and all that stuff? I mean, that's a totally different game, basically.
Well, Commodore 64 was not 100% about gaming, but most of the people used it for gaming. And guess what? Since I was a kid, I fell in love with the arcade machines that were present at my local arcade alley. Basically, just crossing the street. So I've spent a lot of quarters, and I always said to me, I want to own one of these things.
The Commodore 64 was not only about gaming.
Well, it had a keyboard, so it was kind of tickling you into trying yourself to program.
And how did that lead to fix arcade cabinets?
Because the arcade alley was just in front of my house. I just had to walk. And I spent a lot of quarters there. And of course, as every kid, they wish to create their own game once they've been playing it so much. Of course, I wasn't able to program games because that's a very demanding task. But that taught me how to program. And later, when I had enough experience and money, I could actually afford my first cabinet, and I started picking boards off eBay.
Okay, good old Gemma boards.
Yes, all JAMA boards.
Okay, and
Most of them bootleg.
famous
Because
bootleg.
of cost reasons.
And I figured a big problem over here, at least, is that you can barely find people who can fix CRTs because of the high voltage problem and all that stuff.
That's quite true. When I got up to school, out of school, actually my first job was 1.5 years at the TV repair shop. So I went through the whole thing. I wouldn't be able to repair a TV nowadays because, parts are not available anymore. You can try your best, but chances are you're going to fix it. But there's a friend of mine who still has a repair shop in Italy who does all the work, and he has marvelous contacts to find spare parts.
Can't you just go on eBay?
I don't know where it goes, but I believe it's some kind of association with other repairs in Italy. So each has his own sources, and they share and do stuff together. It's not only eBay.
Okay, so you say that in Italy there's a whole society who still repairs Dutch old devices.
Sure.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, well, Italy is not known as a rich country, so people tend to hold on the stuff they have instead of buying new ones.
Is that so? I mean, compared to Bulgaria and all those Eastern European countries, I guess Italy is quite progressed, or am I wrong?
Okay, then let's put it this way. Let's say it's something that's embedded in the culture.
Hmm.
Try and save the most money you can on everything. And there's a funny story about this, right? So there's people going into this shop and saying, "Yeah, I want to have this, huge Sony Trinitron repaired." This is okay. I'll let you know the price, and then you can tell me whether you want to repair it or not. And when he tells them the price, they typically answer, "Yeah, really? So much?" But with just a 50 euro more, I go to supermarket and buy myself the super mega flat TV, which is, I don't know, 30-inch wide. Yes, but you are throwing away one of the best monitors ever. That's nowadays for the same functionality worth a lot more from what you're buying, to buy something that's gonna last 2 years and then you will have to buy a new one. Are you sure you want to do that? There's some customers who say, well, come to think of it, you're right. And there's customers who say, hey, I don't care, thanks, I'm not interested.
Okay.
It's funny, but it's just how people is.
And well, I mean, I know from my experience, I got this broken telephone CRT TV, big one from '95 from my family, and it was broken, and I only found one TV repair shop here in Mannheim, in my city, that would still do it. And a business established in 1977, and they still do that. And I remember he was coming here looking at the problem. It has some some, how you would say, trapeze deformation, and he would say, oh, that's an easy fix, I can do it in 2 days. And then after 4 days he was calling me saying he barely made it, and it did cost me 255 euros, which I thought was quite a lot, but considering you barely can get the parts, they had to get another TV to repair mine. And so
Because parts. I didn't find or see in Germany any repair shop either. That's pretty much true, yes. I guess again it's a thing of culture, but when you ask people to repair a TV for 100 euro, 150, they say no, sorry, no, that's too much. At least in Italy, because 150 is the price you get at the supermarket. But that's Chinese stuff. That's not comparable. But people doesn't care because people only cares about price.
I see.
At least it's said culture thing.
Ah, well, I try to keep my stuff and keep it working as long as possible. So, going back to arcade, so you said you visited the arcades when you were a kid, and you started looking around and finally got your own ones. But going into arcade repair, how did you learn all that stuff? Is it all self-taught, or was it because of your electronic hardware design studies? And I'm not sure how you can arcade repair as a hobby. This sounds like a real crazy adventure.
Oh yes, it is an adventure. Definitely, it is an adventure. Um, I guess that's the challenge that's in it that makes it fun. And for how it started, how I got the knowledge, well, of course, due to my background studies, just opening a schematic that's like reading your own language. You do it from so much time that you get immediately what the circuit is doing, and maybe you have to look a little closer, but you understand how the electronics is working together. Whereas I have seen a lot of people on the forums that just go blindly after instructions like, yeah, replace all capacitors, or yeah, of course it's gonna be adjust the voltage, or yeah, blah this, blah that, or do the reflow, because they have seen that a lot of arcade boards are repaired by fellow forum members. They said, oh, I fixed it by changing the capacitors. Yeah, sure, capacitors do go bad very often. But if it's not one of these very common things, then people's not able to fix the board. And that's where the challenge begins, because of course, replacing the capacitors, it's kind of one of the first things you check, are they bad or not? And if yes, replace them. But then you have to delve deep into the circuitry, and most of the times there is no schematic diagram. So you see, it's a challenge in itself.
So how do you do it if you have no schematics?
That's very hard. That's extremely hard. I remember one of the first boards I repaired was a Psychic 5 from Jalago. And basically it had a broken sprite list RAM, if that tells you anything. So it's a RAM where the CPU stores data about the sprites, position, size, color, and the hardware goes there, fetches the information. And so some of the sprites were appearing, some not. So it would suggest the problem was somewhere else. I needed to figure the circuitry, what it did, how it did it, in order to find the component. And all you have is, looking at the board and maybe tracing some of the traces and look where they go, and then the rest is experience you have to have on yourself in saying, okay, this circuitry more or less should work like this. How would I design it? That's the very fun part, because you have to understand somebody else's work without having any reference.
But doesn't it mean less sprites, less enemies, more gameplay fun?
Gameplay fun, it's not really something for me. When I had the Commodore 64 and I learned assembly language, I spent a lot more time having fun trying to add the infinite lives to the games by freezing and messing with the memory rather than playing the game. So the coding part, or the reverse engineering part, if you want to call it like this, because there was a lot of help back then, was actually to try and find a way to fool the program. And then you have infinite lives. You play the game once. In 1 hour, you're done, and the game doesn't have anything to tell you anymore. So it was not the fun part.
Interesting. I have spoken to German sellers of arcade boards before, and the general opinion I've got is that certain bootlegs of certain games like Capcom boards and so on, they told me it's a bootleg board, but I've never seen any bootleg board of this game in working order. So from what I gathered, there are some arcade games that you cannot bootleg properly.
That is definitely the case. But bootlegs are somewhat easier to repair for just one reason: there are no custom components. So everything is off the shelf, and you go to eBay, you go to some cheap seller, and you find the parts. So it's just a matter of finding where the fault is, and then you're sure you can change the part. As with regard to making bootlegs very difficult to make them work, yes, actually, all of the companies back then made a lot of effort in trying to make their technology very hardly replicatable. Yes, so most of the times the circuitry isn't exactly the same. There's, for example, a very special mention about the Capcom CPS2.
Yes,
where
that was the one exactly. Yes.
there's this shared RAM which the bootleggers did not use. They made something else. Yeah, the board is kind of compatible, but just with some games. And yeah, of course, there are bootlegs which is not worth owning.
Okay, interesting.
And if you repair a bootleg for yourself for the fun of it, it's just very difficult to sell it back for a nice price because it's not an original. And people always doubt, will it work correctly? Will it have issues? Will it last long? And of course, I'm not gonna sell my own boards. It's just I do buy them, repair them for the fun of it, and then they are in my collection.
Interesting. So there are actually some bootlegs that are expansive, and the original game is even more expansive.
Oh yes, like for example, R-Type.
Yes, yeah.
I got a bootleg of R-Type, which has a CPLD there in order to replicate some mess that IREM did on the original. But I mean, even if you're willing to pay the price, go and find an R-Type board nowadays. That's just impossible. There's
That's
no
another
one selling
problem.
them, or at least I didn't see them on sale on eBay. Maybe if you go in Japan, I don't know.
Interesting. All right. So, what was the weirdest issue you had? And I wonder, is there a point at sometimes where you say, "Okay, I'm done. This can't be repaired," because you have often you have this thing, for example, in car repair or other stuff, that there are electronics or devices that cannot be repaired, and then suddenly there's coming somebody from another place and saying, "Oh, I'm having magic hands. I can repair everything."
No, nobody can repair everything, but at least you can try. You know, there's this very nice thing that Einstein said, if I'm not wrong, I said, he said basically, there are things which are actually impossible until comes someone who doesn't know and simply does it. So I remember a board. There's this what was that? Bosconian, Namco.
Oh yes, which was known for being one of the first games having digital samples, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
I am not sure. I can tell you Pac-Man has samples, and I'm not sure which one came first.
I've read about it that they were a bit earlier. Well,
Okay,
anyway.
I don't know for sure. So
Okay, so tell me about it. What was so strange about it?
so basically, I buy this Bosconian board off eBay from one of the members of one of these Verein, how they call it in Germany, associations of gamers who have their own board and they share, do stuff. And yeah, well, he realized what the problem was, and so he tried to sell it. I bought it, and okay, it seems to be in working order condition. I plug it in, and it actually works. But it has this very funny issue that sometimes the ship went to the right on its own without you pushing the joystick. And I figured out, yeah, the problem is in a custom chip. Because it's an original board, it's in a custom chip, so I cannot fix it. Okay, actually, I could try and find the spare part, but it was not available. But here comes the thing about the challenge, the board is there, it's taking its place. So what you do is, I am the human, you are the hardware. So it doesn't matter how long it takes, I'm gonna win. So I came up with this idea. Okay, yeah, actually that microcontroller has been dumped now, thanks to the MAME team. So why do I not write some emulation code for some, I don't know, Atmel microprocessor and actually dump the code in there and make it run and just replace the part with something new? There's this friend of mine who also repairs arcade boards on a daily basis. He's better than I am. It's the same one I told you in Italy who repairs TV and monitors. Is it? No, you just cannot do that. It's too much of an effort. No, don't. But it's the fun of it, it's just the fun of it. The next time I visited him, he had bought the microcontroller for me and he pushed it into my hand and said, use this. Do not waste your blood on that thing. Okay, thanks. Yeah, but there are boards which you just cannot repair. For example, there are boards whose circuitry is so much convoluted that just studying it to understand how it works would take weeks. And after you've tried the several aces you have in your how's it called in English? After you've tried all you say, okay, I would have to reverse engineer more or less this part of the circuitry. That's too much time. I'll go on another board. But yes, of course, there are stuff I cannot repair. Problem is, they are there in the shelf, looking at me and say, I won. And every time you pass by, it's like when you know that there's a small damage on your car. Nobody notices, but so you cannot unsee it anymore. So it looks at you and says, sooner or later I will have to fix you or try again, no matter what.
Yeah. I know I've read recently, a few years ago, there was this story that somebody bought a used Sega Saturn and he found out the CD drive was broken, and then he went to Japan and got another Sega Saturn, and that was also broken. So after over 20 years, he figured out how to work around the copy protection of
I've seen
Sega
that
CD.
video. It was brilliant. It was totally brilliant. He finally cracked the console that nobody cared the cracking before.
Yeah, that's the question. Is it because nobody cared, or because the knowledge is lost, as in TV repair, or what is the problem sometimes? I mean, when I talk to people, like I know, I do this disc magazine for the Commodore 64, and we had this problem that we had it's 80 years ago when we first released the issue, we had a printing function in it, and at some point it broke, and coders told me nobody knows anymore how to program for a needle printer. So I don't know. What's your opinion? Or do you say it's not a problem at all? There will always be a younger generation who is interested backwards and will relearn the stuff? I don't know. What's your opinion?
My opinion is that there are a lot of people who just are not interested in old technology anymore. And the same occurred when we were kids, and I was not interested in thermoionic tubes. I mean, am I gonna meet them again? No, probably not. So I still do not know how a thermoionic tube works. I, of course, have read about it. I know that they work more or less like a MOSFET, but I wouldn't be able to calibrate a circuit and create something that uses those things. And for the video of the person about the Sega Saturn, as he himself pointed out, yeah, well, there's mod chip. Why should one invest time in reverse engineering a platform when the mod chip already allows piracy and it allows homebrew software, and it allows basically to take control of the platform. There is no interest in putting a 14 there, which might lead to long time of work. And so people just say, well, we don't care. For me, I'm a bit different in this regard, because when I see something that tickles me in the sense of a challenge, then I cannot resist it. But if I would offer a arcade board repair service at my conditions, I mean, I will fix it no matter what, unless a lightning comes and strikes the board, or most of the stuff is broken anyway, then the price of the repair would definitely not be acceptable, because
Or you would go bankrupt.
or I would go bankrupt, which definitely would be the case. I would not offer this service professionally. Also because, as basically everyone has learned over his childhood, the moment you make your hobby your work, it's not fun anymore. You have to do it even if you don't want to, and that ruins completely what you have to do.
Well, reminds me a bit of e-gamers, or who make gaming for a living or so. 12 hours of training in a computer game. I'm not sure if I would like still to play computer games. If you have to play it to earn your money to win the FIFA soccer or Counter-Strike challenge that you have next week, yeah, I see the problem there. But I see personally, because I have two left hands, I cannot really repair stuff, that there's basically a problem of finding people who still have the knowledge of making the repair and are not scared of certain stuff like CRTs, high voltage, and all that stuff. I basically see that problem. For example, I have a bread bin board, a Commodore 64 board, that I always connected through the 1084 monitor, no problem. But since I got this telephone TV, I'm using composite because it cannot handle Chroma Luma. And interestingly, this Commodore 64 has the problem that sometimes when it switches on, it only has black and white, but only with composite. Not if I hook it up to the monitor, then I have color. And I have this diagnose board, this you can connect the cartridge and all this looping wires, and then you could run a test, and it would say sometimes that the color RAM is broken. So I send it in to a guy for repair together with 7 other Commodore 64, and he replaced the color RAM and still has the problem.
Of course it does. Well, because the color RAM only selects the attribute for the characters that are on the screen, and does not really introduce the color in itself.
So why does the test program say then that the color RAM is broken? That's interesting.
It might have been broken, but your problem lies anyway somewhere else. I would suggest you check the quartz crystal of the VIC, because it seems like your monitor cannot lock to the chroma bars that it's embedded in the composite signal. From just what you told me, just an idea.
You mean
the
VIC IC I have to replace?
No, not the VIC IC, but the VIC IC has its two outputs, Chroma and Luma.
Okay.
Because it only works inside the with Luma. Chroma does not ever know about what RGB is, and there's a circuitry after the VIC that mixes the two signals.
Okay.
And the problem is there. Or you have your RF modulator, which is broken, since it gets these two signals, and in some models it does the mixing inside. It might be broken. You might try and desolder the RF modulator, and it might work. The VIC is good because, of course, your Luma chroma works, so the VIC is outputting the chroma information. It's just being mixed wrongly to the composite signal. It's something you
Interesting.
might want to try.
Wow. Should I send it to you? Do you want to try? He would be the second guy trying. It's actually sad because it's one of two boards that I have where every IC is socketed. So I really would like to get it working, you know, because most Commodore 64 you have to rip or desolder these ICs if you want to replace something, and this one is totally socked. So that's kind of sad. But I don't know. Maybe you are coming again to the 4-movement only.
That's a possibility, but of course, you need the proper tools to generate enough heat so that you can actually desolder the RF modulator. That is true. But as said, it's just an opinion based on what you told me. If I can actually see the machine, I can do something.
Well, I don't know.
Whatever. We're not here to talk about the Commodore 64, I guess. So
yeah, sure.
Let's
Okay.
not digress.
We got sidetracked. I'm sorry for that. Yeah. Alrighty. Well, basically, I wonder. You probably get a lot of requests. As you said, you do it for friends and so on. I don't want to put something else on your workload. So.
No. That is no workload. I do them when I have time. Then
Okay.
I'm not ultra busy doing my design work. And so if you give something to me and say, please repair it, pretty please put sugar on top, you still have to wait months until I have time to actually take the challenge and open the device, you know.
Yeah.
Feeder itself has gave me a couple boards, which are still sitting there since 4 months already, I guess. So yeah, that takes a lot of time with me.
I see.
Because as I said, it's a fun thing and it's a challenge, and that's a fun part of it. It's not the repair.
Yeah, it's interesting because whenever I spoke to people who do repair, they say the same. You said you get so many requests and you have such a huge pile of devices to repair. Right.
True. As said, I have a huge pile to repair. You don't want to add another one because you get in the end of the queue.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about arcade repair.
Yes.
I've only heard about it, but I think there is something like suicidal batteries, especially for the Sega 16 arcade boards, that leak and destroy important EPROMs. I'm not sure if I recollect that correctly, but that is what I read on the internet about it.
I have informed myself a lot about the problem because I also happen to have a suicided board to repair. And yes, of course, this is a protection measure that the companies added to protect their own assets. So most of the time, this is done by implementing a memory that holds some data. And this memory is random access memory, just the standard one. You unplug the power, the memory gets erased. And these kind of memories tend to hold decryption keys or actually in the old boards, with this Z80 and stuff. Typically, they hold some translation book where the processor, when it needs to load an instruction, the instruction first goes to this translation book, which means if the translation book is gone, then the processor does not have instructions to execute and the board will crash right away. So if your battery is dead, then you would have had to send the board back in for repair, which means they can assure you didn't make any modification like swapping the game with another one because they wanted to gain money by selling you another identical board, just with a different game. And second, they wanted to make money out of the battery replacement service. Funny thing about it. Okay, funny thing about it. I actually happened to have a bootleg, to buy a bootleg of Wonder Boy 2 Monster Land. It's a bootleg, and of course the original has its own encrypted microprocessor, which has this kind of encryption theme in the CPU. So it's a custom part. You cannot just replace it with some off-the-shelf thing without having to decode all the encrypted stuff that it's in the program ROM, which very little people can do because some of the bytes are encrypted, some not, and you need a professional to tell them apart. The bootleggers made a copy of the board and they replaced the processor with their own box containing a Z80 and the RAM and the battery. So they protected their own bootleg. It was a lot of fun because, of course, the battery was dead. So I had to replace the ROM set and put just a standard Z80 in there. And thanks to MAME, I have found that there was a ROM set which was original from Sega, from this virtual console stuff, which you could just drop into the board and it would work.
Even though it's a bootleg.
Yes, because the hardware is completely compatible.
Okay.
Because the bootleggers didn't want to patch the code to just fix some mistake in the board, and they just did it right the first time around, so it was fully compatible. Only, I have been unlucky in following the EEPROM names that MAME listed in the source code, and happened to swap two of the graphic ROMs. That created all sort of mess on the screen, and I was petrified because that looked something like a repair that was going to take a huge amount of time. I actually started digging into the circuit and wasn't able to understand why it was displaying all colors wrong and some things were missing. Until when, searching again, I found somebody on the internet that had just figured the same issue and said, yeah, I had to swap these two ROMs. I said, God, I spent almost 2 weeks on this thing. And the board worked after swapping the ROMs. You know, sometimes you have to get lucky. You cannot just always reverse engineer the old board to fix it.
As you said, those ROMs who lost their contents when the suicidal battery went bad, I think, isn't it so that there are some efforts that have been made to de-encrypt and replace and create those circuits? Because I think I've read something about MAME that they actually successfully had some cases where they simply recreated or got a board where this battery wasn't dead.
So, yeah, about this problem of suicidal battery. For some boards, you are lucky enough that some versions came out of the factory without the encrypted part, probably because they were already working on it.
Okay.
So you actually happen to be able to get some boards on which you can just take the ROM set and put it on the other board, replace the Z80 and you're done.
Okay.
And you find them listed in MAME as unencrypted. So it's original, but it's unencrypted.
Okay, interesting.
That's very rare. On the other side, what people does, or at least what people did back in the days, I'm not sure. I was not able to find enough information. I know what people does today. Today they just actually decap the chip, so just remove the epoxy and get access to the silicon that's inside. They make photographs And in some cases, they are able to extract that small piece of code or data that's inside the CPU or inside the whatever chip, and make it available so that the inner workings of the encryption can be understood and the byte defeated. As for RAM contents which are backed up by a battery, I suppose, but I do not know for sure, that they actually pulled off some very annoying hardware to dump the contents of the RAM while the battery was still good. So they were able to actually extract the contents with the chip decapped. Imagine having nanoprobes on the silicon. That's really a mess. That's very annoying, and they managed to do it. That's some magic. Decapping chips is not my stuff. I wouldn't be able to design silicon, but there's companies that do that. So I guess that's thanks to MAME being a very multicultural and multi-experienced community that we have this marvelous tool. Because MAME also helps you quite a lot in your repair effort, because you get all the data you possibly can from the source code, which you wouldn't be able to if you didn't have this resource available.
But there are some games nowadays that are said to be lost forever, or at least being incomplete because of data that cannot be restricted anymore. I mean, the last time I looked at MAME, it was a while ago, but I think there are some games that have missing sounds, missing graphics, and I mean, interestingly, for the majority of people in the world, MAME is about gaming, but actually MAME is about preserving.
Yes.
So are you also involved in the preserving part, or do you leave that part for to other people?
Since I do use MAME a lot in my repair efforts, I do contribute whatever I can, although I do not contribute code because it would look ugly. I do contribute, I don't know, ROM dumps. I do contribute whatever I find out about information about the board, even if not just a photo of the board, so that maybe this information could be useful to somebody else in the community, which is maybe experienced with cracking encryption, or maybe which is experienced in, decapping devices, because that is also possible. And the good thing is, all you put in the community, it comes back to you, because, for example, if you have to see a problem which you cannot find on how the CPU is booting, and that happened to me on a Ghost and Goblin board, I was not able to tell why the CPU was crashing, and I was able to actually see what the code was doing, because MAME has an integrated, very rich debugger with which you can just run the software, breakpoint it, and see whatever it's doing. And yes, the main purpose of MAME is preserving the games. As Nicolas and Moria used to say, it has the side effect of letting you play the game, but that's a secondary purpose. Of course, people use it to play it, but if you are in the repair of arcade boards, then you absolutely need a resource like that.
I wonder, wouldn't it be easier to ask the original creators of the games, of the boards, how things were done? I know that in the Commodore 64 community, there were some copy protections that nobody were able to remaster. So if your original is broken and you want to remaster it on another diskette, you were unlucky. And in that cases, there were some coders from back in the day that actually said, okay, the company I worked for is bankrupt since 20 years anyway. Here's the source code of the copy protection that we used on our games. So be happy, and now you know how it works, and now you know how you can recreate it. But I've never heard of such stories in the arcade community. I'm not sure how rare it is, or if that is even possible to get the creators supporting, preserving, or repairing their boards they developed 30 years ago.
So, with regard to the Commodore 64, that actually goes to the highest levels possible, because I remember there was this interview with Robert Yannis, the person who designed the SID chip, which helped a lot figure out how the SID chip does its things internally, and it was so tremendously useful to keep developing the library everybody knows, which is implemented in Vice and a lot of other stuff that plays SID chip tunes so well it's actually undistinguishable if they're real or if it's a real hardware or not. On the arcade series stuff, there's actually a lot that has been done. There's, for example, a lot of game creators who just gave permission for the community to freely use the game. So, like the company is bankrupt, the property of the copyright on the game returned back to me. I am just not doing games anymore. Nobody's selling this hardware anymore. I'm not never gonna take this money. So please, here, use it and have fun. And these ROMs you can find on MAME's download, on MAME's website for download, with the expressed, of course, statement that you cannot release or sell them, but you have to point people to let them download from their website. There's also a Spanish company that's called Gaelco, who helped a lot in providing, for example, information, or actually even the source code. I'm not sure about how the protection of World Rally, which is a game of theirs, worked. And that's why today there is a tool that allows you to put back the encryption key or whatever data is in the CPU through a serial connection or just revive their boards. So yes, there is a lot of kind people in the business, but probably that's unlikely to get this kind of information from Japanese, because they are the people who got hurt in the first place. So when you go and ask for something, they're typically, I don't know, we don't know. The person who did this is dead. Don't ask, or they even don't answer the phone or email. So I remember once I tried, just for fun, to trace back the property, the intellectual property owner of an arcade game from Atari. Atari has been acquired by Namco. It's very difficult to find if you don't follow all the breadcrumbs that are on the internet, partly on Wikipedia, partly on other sites. So I contacted Namco, and bureaucracy. I was put in a loop of contact this, contact that, all while trying to speak a little bit of Japanese from Google Translate and mixing it with English to try and make myself understood. Never got any information about it. And it's about copyright on a game. They should answer. But they don't want to. I have this, at least they don't want, I have this impression.
Okay, interesting. So what's your plan? What do you want to do next? Do you have any plans ahead that you can talk about, or are you just happy with what you have reached in the arcade era, and how you repaired your boards and the boards of your friends for fun?
I do have gathered over the years a collection of almost 80 games, which I carefully selected because, there's this problem, there are too many games. If you just pick any random board that's, oh, that was fun, on eBay, that's gonna cost you a fortune. So I constrained myself to a list, and I only buy these games no matter what, because stuff. And I fixed 60% of them. I will keep doing this, and once I'm done, the thing I want to do is buy myself a cabinet with a vertically oriented monitor, so I can have two of them, one for, horizontal games and one for verticals without having to rotate the monitor every time, and just have fun at home. Maybe I will get a new challenge, or maybe I will buy more boards. I do not know now.
Okay. So is there any place where people can find out about what you're doing, or are you not really putting it, what you do on the internet for everybody to read?
I only put a very small portion of it on the internet because, that's just like any person confronting himself with a challenge. You have countless fails, which you don't want to show.
Okay.
Or repairs which took you 3 months for something that was so easy, no need to share it, right? But I go by the nickname of Asayuki on this arcade otaku forum, and I have several repairs there in the wiki if you're curious. Among these, there are some repairs of which I told you about in this evening, so you can have a look if you want to just have some fun.
Yeah,
And,
certainly. Send me the links. I will definitely put them in the podcast description when we release that.
Sure, I will do so.
Well, thanks a lot for this interview. Very nice.
You're
I learned
welcome.
a lot today because some months ago we spoke about the American side. We had Richie Knuckles, who is repairing and restoring arcade cabinets in the USA, and that's a totally different deal in some aspects. So it was interesting to hear about the European side. Especially Italian side of repair, because you can always compare and say, okay, it's a lot different over there in Europe. All right. Okay.
I wish you a very nice evening.
Yeah, thank you. You too. Bye.
Bye.